Welcome to the Wealth Matters podcast, where investors come together to better understand how to build passive cash flow and create generational wealth without all the confusing mumbo-jumbo. Here's your host and co-author of Amazon #1 bestseller, Alpesh Pamar.
Welcome to Wealth Matters podcast. I am going to talk to someone who is as passionate as I am about Bitcoin. Matthew has been involved in crypto since 2017. I started investing in 2016 as well. But he believes Bitcoin will be worth 4.5 million in the future. So I'm looking forward to this episode. Also on Wealth Matters, we have not spoken about cryptocurrencies, even though I mention about it all the time that I had a cryptocurrency mining business between 2017 through 2019. But I wanted to have someone else who knows a lot more about crypto than me. And finally, we have someone. So I'm looking forward to this episode. Welcome, Matthew.
Alpesh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start with some fun. Tell us something interesting or funny about yourself.
Let's see, something interesting about me. Well, I mean, as of the time of recording this, I am living in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So I'm halfway across the world. I'm not sure where most of your guests are from, but yeah, I'm halfway across the world. It's 6:37 a.m. I have a 13-month-old son. He's asleep right now. He didn't wake up at 5 a.m. So life is good right now.
No, I know, and that's great. So Matthew is from United States of America as well, and he moved to Thailand. And yes, I would say 80% of my guests are from US of A. So yeah, welcome. And sorry it's too early, but we got to record.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Hey, so what took you to Thailand?
Yeah, so I left the States back in 2016 to failed to move to Germany. So I moved to Berlin. I was there for about 2 months, and I had some things that were lined up and things were falling through. And then I really had to start thinking as far as like, what do I want to do? Do I, my visa, do I want to stick around? Do I really want to live in Germany? So my brother kept chirping in my ear to basically, keep traveling. So I was like, okay. So I just continued to travel. And then I came to Thailand. And then long story short, I fell in love. I got married to my wife back in 2018. We had a child, got a house. And so now I've been living here. We had plans to come back to the States, loosely, before COVID hit, right? We were like, oh, we're going to come back in 2019. It was like, okay, now then there was problems with the visa. So then we're like, okay, we're going to come back 2020. And then COVID hits. And then now it's like, we don't know when we're coming back. So that's how a long roundabout way how I wound up in Thailand.
Hey, and I don't want to take over your conversation, but it's funny when you mention about visa. That is what I went through, and a lot of people like me go through when we moved to United States of America. So when I moved here, the entire thing was visa. Finally, of course, I'm a US citizen. But yeah, it was a difficult journey. And people here would not realize that what we go through as an immigrant, right? It's not just the work, it's the culture, it's the visa. That is just a lot more to go through.
I can't imagine. Well, sometimes I think it's going to be easier. No, I don't know. Sometimes I think it'll be easier being an immigrant to America. Like in Thailand, you have to do this 90-day reporting, which is, so imagine like if you're not a citizen, right? So let's say you have a green card and whatnot. So you have to do this thing. It's called the 90-day report.
Wow.
And every 90 days, you have to go, you're supposed to go to the immigration office. You basically sign this paper and say like, yes, I'm still here. And then you're like, okay. And then you get another 90 days. So they've been doing this on the internet as well. It's moderately worked successfully, but it's been down for the past 4 or 5 months. They can't hire a IT person apparently to get it working. Just weird stuff like that. Like if you're living in San Francisco and you wanted to fly to Colorado, right? You're technically supposed to, when you arrive in Colorado, you're supposed to fill out a form and say like, I have left my, bungalow in San Francisco, and now I'm in
Wow.
Colorado. And then when I go back, it's like, so you're definitely a guest. There's no,
Right.
America, there's a little bit more diversity, right?
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're like, if I'm in a grocery store and somebody sees me, they know I'm a foreigner, right? They know I'm a
Right, right.
foreigner. Like they know, like nobody would like come up to you right in the middle of San Francisco at Vaughn's or something and be like, "Excuse me, sir, are
Right.
you
No,
from
yeah.
America?" Like that's racist. Like
Yeah,
like
no,
in
and
Thailand, they're
I,
just like, "Yeah, no, we know you, foreigner."
I could relate. So yeah, you are 100% right. America, that is why this is a country built on immigrants, right? And America is so different, and that is why another thing, it's called land of opportunities, right? Because everyone gets almost equal opportunities, right? Of course, there are some issues here and there, but this is why who I am right now, because I was able to move here over 20 years ago, and I got so many opportunities, right? There were challenges, but I was able to get through all of that because there were, as you said, there are you get a lot of chances basically.
For sure.
So what do you do there then?
Yeah, so I work for a private equity company called Boardwalk Wealth. It's based out of Dallas, Texas, and we basically specialize in acquiring large multifamily apartments. And I work in the investor relations aspect of it.
That's awesome. So you and I have a lot in common because I invest in real estate and we syndicate as well. And of course, I invest in Bitcoin and not only Bitcoin, a lot of cryptocurrencies. So so what kind of assets do you personally invest in?
Yeah, so right now it's just strictly real estate and Bitcoin.
Okay, well, that those two, I love both of those. So we can talk about so let's talk about why those two.
Yeah, so obviously they're hard assets, but for me, uh, I had a stock portfolio as well, and I just started looking at myself and looking at my actions, right? So it's like, let's say you really want to lose weight and you're eating a lot of chips and like you're not your actions aren't aligning with like what you're actually doing, right? So I had money in the stock, some money in the stock market, and I had all this knowledge about Bitcoin and real estate, and I would say more so knowledge about Bitcoin. And I was like, why am I invested in? I had
Right.
Apple, Uber, I had Amazon for a while. I bought that like a couple years ago. You know, some other stocks, right? Some other like uh, Vanguard funds and whatnot. And I'm looking at this money and I'm thinking like, why am I invested in these companies? Like literally, like I was asking myself, I was like, why do I like know the forward PE ratios? Do I look at the quarterly earning reports? Like, why do I think these are good? And I was like, well, this is more based off of a hunch, and people say like
Right.
invest in the FANG stocks, and they've gone up so much over the past 10 years, and it's like, hey, I'm happy. But then I started thinking like, if I were like, do I have conviction in this asset class? Like if it fell by 10, 5, 15%, maybe, right? Would I sell? I was like, I have nothing to base this off of. I'm just investing this money in something I have clearly no clue what I'm doing.
Right.
Like clearly no clue. And so last year, actually, during the pandemic, before, Michael Saylor started, purchasing large amounts of Bitcoin
Yeah.
and using his
MicroStrategy.
treasuries. Yeah, I started liquidating my portfolio and then just moving the rest of it into Bitcoin, and yeah, so I now have a high amount of my liquid net worth in Bitcoin, and something that I have conviction in. And the way I look at it is like, I'm very passionate about Bitcoin. I know a lot about Bitcoin. And, for me personally, like, if I were to die today, like, at least I have conviction and passion in something. And if I lost all my money, which I don't think I will, I can live with that. But if I were to have my money in the stock market and it were to go to, 0 or 70% drawdown or 20% drawdown, I would have no clue. I'd be like, dude, I don't know. Like, why
Right.
is Facebook doing this? I would be like, God, this is so stupid. Like, how they say like weak hands, right? I feel like I have diamond hands in Bitcoin. If there was a 5-10% correction in Facebook, which isn't that much, right? In the crypto world,
Right.
I would be like, like, why did this happen? Like, is
Yeah.
there a competitor? Like, I have no clue, and I don't
Right.
follow it, and I don't really, I don't know. I just don't nearly care about it as much, and I don't find it nearly as interesting. And so, yeah, so that's why, I'm heavily invested in Bitcoin. And then when I work with, Boardwalk Wealth, I invest within the portfolios as well. So I'm on the GP side there. So, yeah, it's just real estate and, Bitcoin at the moment.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about Bitcoin. What exactly is
Yeah.
it? I'm pretty sure most of my listeners know about it by this time because of all the in last 6 months what has happened with Bitcoin. I was telling them, or I was telling my friends in 2017, and no one wanted to listen. So
Yeah.
define Bitcoin for us.
Yeah. So I would define Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer digital asset with a network effect. Um, so basically, the network effect, if you want to think about Facebook or if you want to think about cell phones, it basically says the number of users, as the number of users grows within the network, so does the value of the network. So if I have one cell phone and you have one cell phone, like, we can only call each other, so it's not that valuable. But now if we have 4 people, we have 4 people within our network. Or if you think Facebook, right? Like, now there's whatever, a billion users on Facebook. Well, there's a billion people within that network. So if they want to run an advertisement, they could run an advertisement for, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to every one of those people if they wanted to. Like, they own the platform. First thing that you could probably see on your right hand side is buy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So the number of eyeballs that's on that network, it's now perceived to have more value. So a peer-to-peer digital asset distributed on a network effect, or distributed on a network with a network effect.
And let's talk about why Bitcoin is the real deal.
Yeah. So I believe it's back in 2009, or it was 2009, 2009.
Yes.
Yeah, 2009. Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonymous creator. It's either a group of people or an individual. I tend to believe, I think it's an individual. I think it's Halfing. He passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease. But so Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin, and it's a decentralized asset, or decentralized, what am I trying to say? Decentralized token or decentralized coin. Basically, what it means is, as there's no central point of attack. So, if you look at Facebook, I didn't plan on comparing as much this conversation to Facebook, but it looks like I am. Is Facebook? So
Libra, DM.
they had the Libra token, and then Mark Zuckerberg had to go in front of Congress, and he basically was under the line of fire, right? And so, if you are fully decentralized, there's no single point of attack. So Bitcoin has, mining rigs all throughout the world. They have nodes all throughout the world. So there's no, America could say, hey, we 100% ban it. Or let's say China, right? China banned it for a little while. And then they come back and they say, hey, okay. And then I know India is rolling out restrictions on, I think, all cryptocurrencies. You can't own this, but as you know, I think it was the highest denominated bill in India, whatever it was back in the day. They just basically told everybody that owned that, they're like, this
Yes,
$1,000
correct.
bill, this $1,000 bill
$1,000
is
was gone. Yep.
no longer in circulation. And the people that I basically had that are like, what the hell? And so they lost that money. So, with Bitcoin, it's fully decentralized. If you look back at within this last year with all the quantitative easing, yield curve control, whatever you want to call it, right? So the government just keeps continuously printing and printing more money as they go. So more money, more money, more money, more money. But with Bitcoin, there's a hard cap of 21 million fixed supply, a hard cap of 21 million fixed supply. So people cannot duplicate more. They can't say, hey, I own 500 million Bitcoin. It's like, okay, that's impossible. Like, you can look at the blockchain, you can see where Bitcoin has been, how's it going. It breaks down. It's slow, it's boring, it's effective, it's proven math, and it's never been hacked. And so, yeah, it's just a very beautiful thing that a lot of people are trying to wrap their heads around, and me myself, I'm still trying to learn every single day as much as I can. And within the crypto world, every year is a dog year, right? So if you've been in 1 year, you've been in 7 years. So there's things that are constantly changing. It's the wild, wild west. It's hot, it's sexy, it's fun, it's the future. And investing in Uber and Facebook is like boring. It's just so boring to me. It's like, man, like this is the come up. This is the real thing. This is revolutionary. It's a revolutionary technology that is going to melt people's faces off and shock the world. I mean, it has shocked the world, and it's just so cool to have a front row ticket and be alive and witness something like this and be privy to this information. If you go back and you look at Facebook, right? Like, I was in college at the time, and I remember when it was coming out, and it was okay, cool. Like, I don't know if it's just because I was young and I wasn't thinking of these things, but then everyone says, oh, if I were to do it all again, like, I would put so much money into Facebook and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And there was, I think, I can't remember the exact amount, but there was somebody that did a mural for, I think, the Facebook office, like one of the first Facebook offices. And they're like, listen, we can't pay you. We'll just pay you in stock options. And the mural that he painted wound up being worth like millions of dollars. It was like, sweet.
Right, of course.
But, it's like this cutting edge technology of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin has the value and potential to change millions of lives. And some people are, not as open to, I don't know, alternative investments, or stuck in their ways, or, why I have my job here, I have my stocks, like, why would I, care? So, I can understand that. But, from what I've learned, there's always opportunity. And if you have your eyes open and, your ears open, you're more susceptible or more open to getting new opportunities that work out for you.
So, no, this is great. And as I said, I believe in Bitcoin. Of course, I should have, as you mentioned about Facebook or other stocks, I feel like I wish I could have invested a lot more, and I can go back in time, but that's all I could have, would have, should have, right? But the story is that, and only people started talking or noticing about Bitcoin as of last year, when it went from 4,000 to 60 grand in a year, right? At the same time, when MicroStrategy started acquiring GBTC, Guggenheim came up with their own, Grayscale came up with their own trust, and a lot of other companies, especially Elon Musk and Tesla, they started investing. So lots of momentum for Bitcoin, but in last month or so, it has started to be stagnating. So where do you see it going from now, there on, like, where do you see Bitcoin by end of the year and in next 5 years? And why?
So I mean, conservatively, I thought at the beginning of the year, so back it up to last year's, I thought at the start of 2020, right? I made the prediction in 2019. I was like, we're gonna be like 7,000, like 655, right? And I had like screenshots, and like me and my friend were doing it, and I got it within, a couple $100 of the first day of January 2020. And then so January 2020, I thought we would be around $50,000, and that was wrong. I think at the end of December January 2020 were like around like 20-ish thousand. And so I was like, okay. And then so this year, I thought we would finish the year out around around $50,000. But things have obviously moved a lot faster. So I think, right now, I think a conservative estimate would be that we'll finish the year, or I shouldn't say finish. I don't know about finish, but I think conservatively we will hit at least $100,000 this year, conservatively. People predict anywhere between 100,000 to, the super cycle of Dan Held, right? 300,000 plus. I think that we will, like I said, conservatively, and I think we could very easily close out the year $100,000. So, we could have a blow off top to like 175, 210, and then come back down and then end the year in December at like 115, 120. But yeah, I think we can easily hit 100,000. I think it's a very high probability. As far as where do I see Bitcoin being in the future? For me, I have a podcast as well. It's called Rabbit Hole Finance. It's available on YouTube and on Spotify and whatnot. But I had a gentleman on my show. His name is Greg Foss. He's been on basically, the Bitcoin circuit, but he deals in credit default swaps, and he works out of Canada. And he's basically told me that, I asked him the question. I was like, yeah, the store value market, there's around like 400, 500 trillion. He's like, actually, the store value market is around 900 trillion. So I was like, okay. So, him and I worked through the math, and basically if right now, Bitcoin right now is currently at a $1 trillion market cap, gold's around 10 to $11 trillion market cap. If Bitcoin were to get a $10 trillion market cap, right, conservatively, right, if they get a $10 trillion market cap, Bitcoin would be around $500,000.
Yeah,
now if
and
there's
that's what I'm hearing too, that in 5 years, that's what we are looking at.
and then if there's a $900 trillion market cap, and Bitcoin is able to capture, let's say 10% of that conservatively, so that would be $100 million, or that would be 400 and yeah, there you go. That would be $90 trillion. So $90 trillion market cap will put Bitcoin around $4.5 million. Preston Pish from We Study Billionaires, he has a good podcast as well. He was asked recently on his podcast, but he basically said, like, somebody's like, how do you see this all playing out? He says, honestly, I think this is just going to be very accelerated within the next 5 years. And, Bitcoin's out of Pandora's box. It's more so in the forefront. People say this time is different. I do think this time's a little bit different, and it's going to move quick. And I don't know. I remember when I was younger and I wanted a cell phone, I wanted a pager, right? And my mom, my grandma, my mom were like, "Why do you want a pager?" Like, my friend up the street had a pager, and like my grandma was like, "Drug dealers only have pagers and doctors. You're not a doctor. Are you a drug dealer?" And my mom was like, what are you going to get a pager for? Right. And I was like, she's like, to page you to tell you to come out of your room for dinner. I was like, yeah, page me to come out of my room for dinner. Or then it's like, I didn't have a cell phone. And then one of my friends would have a cell phone. And then it's like, oh, okay, I don't have a cell phone. And then these things happen like gradually, and then it's all of a sudden suddenly. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, like now 25% of the people owns Bitcoin. Like, you should buy today. Okay, now 50. It's like, oh, all of a sudden you look and it's like, oh, your grandma has a cell phone. Like, when did all this happen? And so these things are moving very quickly. And, I think once the central banks start to roll in, whether that's going to be 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years, it's gonna escalate quickly. And, that's where within Bitcoin too, I didn't touch on it before, but every 4 years they have a halving supply.
Halving cycle.
And yeah, which basically reduces the amount of new issuance of Bitcoin. So every 10 minutes there's 6.25 Bitcoin that are issued. So in 2024 will be the next halving cycle. It's very boring. Just think like a New Year's countdown. It's like sometime in May. It'll be just like 3, 2,
May
1.
of 2024.
Like 3, 2, 1, and then like on whatever day in May 2024 it'll go Okay, and then it goes from 6.25 to 3.13 Bitcoin. And now every 10 minutes, there'll be 3.13 Bitcoin. And then 4 years after that, 2028, there will be 1.6, sorry, yeah, 1 point, whatever, 1.6 Bitcoin, right?
Yes. So this
So,
is
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So no, I want to remind my listeners that one, we are not advising you to invest in Bitcoin. Definitely do your due diligence. We are not investment advisors or experts in cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin, but we are passionate about the technology. And the second thing about the Bitcoin, the halving cycle, which Matthew mentioned, this is why even though the Bitcoin mining started in 2009, we have already reached 18 million Bitcoins, over 18 million. But to reach to 21 million, it's going to take us through around 2140 or 2150, something like that, because every 4 years, the number of Bitcoins which could be mined would get halved, right? So that's my understanding as well. And this is why, if nothing else, supply and demand comes into picture, right? When everyone is trying to buy and the supply is actually reducing, it's not increasing, it's a finite supply. But to reach to even that finite supply, it's going to take another over 100 years. So if everyone wants to get Bitcoin, of course, there is demand, and there is not enough supply, the price is going to go up, because that's like basic law of investing, right? Supply and demand. And the second thing I was reading about is that around 100 million people own Bitcoin right now in the world. Think about that, it becomes just 1 trillion. 1 billion people, right? That's it. If nothing else, Bitcoin could go 10 times from here without doing anything else, because everyone, as you said, everyone would want it, right? Because everyone starts talking about it, and then it's in media all over. Then I'm like, oh, do you own a Bitcoin? I do. Then it's more like, oh, why shouldn't I own one, right? So those are some of the things I think. But let's talk about another thing. Means you and I are talking about Bitcoin, and I am crazy about cryptocurrencies as well. What about Ethereum? Actually, Ethereum is right now, the Ethereum to BTC price ratio, it's going crazy. And I
For sure.
compare both of them, Bitcoin as gold and Ethereum as silver in the commodity space.
Mhm.
So what do you think about Ethereum?
Yeah, so I had some Ethereum, and I sold some of my Ethereum back when what year? I'm getting confused with all these years. So we're in 2021. So I sold my Ethereum back a couple months ago when it was like hitting like a new all-time high of like 1800. Um, and then, as I said before, I have a very strong conviction of Bitcoin, and I've learned a lot about it. And then it's just like almost like version 2.0 of, I'm like, okay, so I have some Ethereum. I'm kind of doing the same thing with this as I was with stocks. And I'm like, okay. And I started looking into Ethereum a little bit more. And I'm like, why do I own this? And I just owned it because of people like, oh, it's going to go up and blah, 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 blah. And then, just rollbacks with the protocol, gas fees. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't believe in this. And then when I was just like, I don't believe in this. I don't. Could this outperform Bitcoin within like this cycle? Sure. Yeah, great. I have no clue. Yes, but I was like, what am I willing to put my stake in the ground at as a man, as like me, Matthew Baltzau? What do I believe in? And I believe that not very many people have strong conviction, and is something that is flowing through their body and their bones. And it's like, do I feel this way about Ethereum? I was like, no. And then when I think about, can I cash this out and move it over into Bitcoin and have more Bitcoin? In my mind, I'm like, well, more Bitcoin sounds great. If you're comparing Bitcoin, or if you're comparing Ethereum to the US dollar, and it's like, well, could I have, whatever, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 per Ethereum? I was like, yeah, okay. Like, but what am I going to do in like 6-7 years when, the scarcity aspect of Bitcoin is even more, right after a couple more cycles? And then, now people are scrambling for this pure, investment that they can use as far as collateral is concerned. And let's say there's a hack or something that happens with Ethereum, or they decide to change the protocol, or Polkadot, or one of these other side chains becomes equally as equivalent. Like Bitcoin is like, I don't even know how to describe it. Bitcoin is, Mars, and these other chains are, I'm not like knocking them, but they're all like colonizing the world still. They're like, let's get on a ship and go to India. And we're like, we found land. It's like, great. Like, we're on Mars. Like, we've left. But like, you guys like could colonize and you could do some great stuff. And like, you're still on Earth. Like, we are like completely out here. We're aliens. We can come down. We can come on your land. We can go back. We can go over here. We can go over like wherever we want. Like, we're in a different stratosphere.
Right.
So for me, Ethereum could be a good investment, but for me personally, I'm just not the biggest fan.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's take a quick break, and after the break, we'll go through the same questions I ask every guest.
You're listening to the Wealth Matters Podcast. The Wealth Matters Podcast. For more info about what we do, check us out at wealthmatters.com. It's wealth, WEALTH, matters, MATRS.com.
So would you be changing any business or investment strategy after this pandemic is over?
No.
So what you're doing is working then.
Yeah, I would, as I stated earlier, I'm open, right? So, my brother, he's invested in XRP, and, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I try and say like, hey, send me some material. Like, I'm open to learning, like prove me wrong kind of thing. Right. And so I'm open to other forms of investment. But for me, and right now, what once you really understand Bitcoin, it's this digital land in space that is one of the scarcest commodities in the world. And this land grab is only going to last for a set amount of time, right? Like,
right.
You need to get it as much as possible, as soon as possible.
Yeah. Favorite real estate or finance or any other related book?
Yeah, I would say Richest Man in Babylon. It's a good book.
Yeah, that's a great book. Any tool or website you recommend, maybe for your crypto research or maybe to hold your holdings?
I would say Casa Keys for holding your cryptocurrency, and I guess you could go to CoinDesk for articles, and TradingView for looking at charts.
Any advice for beginner investors?
Don't listen to other people. Gain as much knowledge as you can. Formulate your own opinions, and think of the long game.
How do you give back?
So back in America, I was involved in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, which is basically just like a mentorship program. But since being abroad, I still contribute to charities monthly. But, right now, just trying, I don't specifically give back in any way, but I'd like to adopt a child in the future. So, planning on that. So that's one of the things I'd like to give back.
And do you recommend any other YouTube channels or to gain more knowledge about cryptos? Or which YouTube channel or websites do you follow as well?
Yeah. So, We Study Billionaires. They have a podcast that's on YouTube as well. That's really good to follow. There's also What Bitcoin Did is very good, very beginner friendly. And Read the Bitcoin Standard. It's a little more in depth, but that's also a great book as well to start. Oh, and then there's another book that I highly recommend. It's called Hard Money You Can't F With. It's by Jason Williams. It's a very good book, and it has a good storyline. And if you want a little more of another interesting book, Bitcoin Billionaires. it's about the Winklevoss twins, the creators of Facebook, and how
Of
they
course.
own 1% of the circulating supply. So that's a very interesting book as well.
Yeah, who wouldn't know about them? So
Yeah.
that's awesome. How can my listeners reach out to you?
Yeah. So the best way that people can reach out to me is if they want to email me at my email, matthew@matthewbaltzell.com, or you guys can go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And the first 5 people to subscribe and let me know, I have a special offering for you guys. So if you subscribe, first 5 people and message me, I have an infographic and some resources that I can help, give to you guys to help you gain some more access and learn some more about Bitcoin.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew.
For sure.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Matters podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes so others can enjoy the show too. Have a great week and happy investing!